You see, that's the reality of life. So many times in our living, our very existence is only one stone throw away of being something else. It causes you to think about you for a moment. You know, the last time we were together last Sunday, we talked about how the Gospel of John made you think. It made you do some spiritual self-reflection. It was a book that made you take spiritual inventory of yourself. In the book of John, within the few verses of chapter 8, it seems that the scribes and the elders of the church didn't get that memo to have a time of self-spiritual reflection. All right. They didn't go to that Bible study. No, that they were so concerned with the sins of other folk, they forgot to take a look at themselves. And in this familiar New Testament story, we see how the main ones who are ready to point out the flaws of somebody else need to check themselves first at the door. As the story tells us, Jesus was teaching, and the elders and scribes brought to him a woman caught in the act of adultery. And to punish her for this sin, she was to be put to death, execution by stoning. Now you know this morning, the object of the stone in biblical times was used for building, used for fighting, and used for executions. Stones were also a place of landmarks. There are some familiar stones in the scriptures. We know in the Old Testament, David took down the giant Goliath by the stone. Jacob used the stone as a pillow in the book of Genesis. The stone was used to construct, to build, and add to civilization. But here the Pharisees attempted to use the stone as a device to cause death. As I look closer at the text, I see how they actually brought some mess in the church. The Pharisees, the officials of the church, the folk who've been there the longest, they're third generation Asbury members. They know the scriptures backwards and forwards. They interrupted Bible study, not to get a prayer through, not to make a pledge, not to add to the capital campaign, not to add something constructive to the service, but they came to bring somebody else's sin to the table. They didn't confess their own mess. They didn't confess their own sins. They didn't want to admit their own shortcomings. But they wanted the woman to admit hers. You got to watch those folks in your life. Watch the ones who always want to bring your stuff to the altar. Always want to nudge you for the altar call. Always reminding you of the mess you did in your past. Watch them, because they may be the very ones, the same ones who got more bones in their closet than you do in yours. Watch the text. Verse 4 says, they caught her in the act. That's very observant of them. But that's what they said. But in actuality, these men were in violation of legal requirements. As any lawyer, when you bring accusations against someone, you need to have evidence or a witness. They didn't have either. So legally, they can't do a thing. Furthermore, if the man and the woman were caught in the act of adultery, both would be executed. Now, I know some of us are holy often thou, and they can't catch up with the act of adultery. That's fine. You say that does not apply to you. But when I think about adultery, I thought adultery was a two-person activity. But here's a man who was with the woman cannot be found. It's just the woman all by herself. Okay, now here comes the bones in the closet. The woman didn't commit adultery alone. She had some help. And common sense tells me, if I know exactly what you did, if I know when you did it, how you did it, where you did it, what time you did it, and how long you did it, then I may have done it with you. How can you take me doing something unless you were doing it with me? How am I going to be the only one caught, the only one with the sin, the only one here in trouble when we were both doing dirt? That they would not have known she was an adulterer unless one of the accusers were one also. Or y'all can't talk back to me in this morning. Tell somebody, you're going to watch your dirt. You see, Asbury, they thought they were slick. I told you they knew the scriptures backwards and forwards. And they were going to use the scriptures to trap Jesus. They really didn't want him to rectify the situation. They didn't really want him to solve the problem. They just wanted to know what he was going to say. You got to know this morning. Some folks just want to see your reaction in certain situations. They really don't want to encourage your faith. Just measure it. They aren't trying to be your prayer partner. They just trying to know your business. They are trying to see how saved you think you really are. They're going to try to test you at your faith. Oh yeah, you're on the choir now, but I'm going to see if I can make you cuss. You're a trustee. You count the money. Take $1 or $2. No one will know. It's a small church anyway. You got a testimony, so you say, is it real or did you make it up on your way to church this morning? You ain't that saved anyway. Let me see how saved you think you are. Folk will try you. They will try to get on your nerves so much, trying to push you so close to the edge simply because they want to see how deep your faith is. Yeah, you're trying to be faithful, trying to be real about it, trying to do the doggone thing with Jesus. But every once in a while, your faith will get placed under the microscope. Yes, I'm a Christian, but don't test me. All right. The officials of